Okay, welcome back to Two Sides, Same Couch, a podcast where two best friends tackle the conversations that most people avoid. This is a space for real stories, raw talk, and making room for growth, healing, and perspective. I'm Maggie Murphy, and this is
Myron Mullen.
Thank you. And our co-host. I was going to say my co-host, Myron Mullen. And our topic for the day is, what is it, Myron?
Our topic for today, Boundaries 101.
Yes, Boundaries 101. So I'm really excited about this topic. I find this very interesting. So this was definitely my choice. So I'm pumped. So Myron.
I feel like the last 5 topics have been your choice.
They're all my choice. Okay, so when you hear the word boundary, Myron, what do you think of?
I think of back up off me, like give me some space, or just like, a firm no, like a firm, I'm uncomfortable with this, just like making it very aware to people that, you're about to, the line's right there, you're about to cross it, and there's consequences and repercussions if you cross that line. So that's what I hear. How about you?
I think my thoughts on boundaries has evolved a ton. So it's definitely like shifted and changed just over time. But I think I used to think, similar to you, that it was definitely like a negative thing almost. Like boundaries happen in negative situations, kind of like the back up off me. Like you wouldn't have to say boundaries if there wasn't something, or you wouldn't have to say back up off me if there wasn't something happening that was like not to your liking, right? So I think it definitely like there's a part of it that's like associated with negative things. And yeah, I think that's what I thought about it. Yeah, I think people think that it's all about the word no. But yeah, I think that negative, there was a negative connotation that I had with, or control potentially too. I think there's a piece in there that I used to think it had a lot to do with control. But I read this book. I read it like 2018 for the first time. And I have look at all the...
There's a lot of notes in there.
Yeah, it's like so many. I have so many notes in here. So I really tore this book up. And I'm reading it again, hence why I wanted to talk about it today. But this really shifted my definition of what I think a boundary is. So I'm going to read it. So what is the boundary? It says, boundaries are invisible property lines that define where you begin and where someone else ends. What is yours to control and what isn't yours to control. And I think that mental image helped me so much, just literally thinking of property lines of a house. And especially when you are especially in my neighborhood, we're all next to each other, right? And it's very clear what the property lines are, where my house is and where the next one begins, where my house ends and where the next one starts. And I think also for me, boundaries for so long has felt like a negative thing, like a bad thing. Like I wasn't supposed to have them. It was not firm for me. And I put a lot of judgment on it. For example, if I would get negative feedback from someone because of a boundary I had, I would kind of shift my boundary because I'm oh, maybe that's wrong. It wasn't firm for me. They were very loose. But now, I see it so differently now. I see it as literally, these are just the property lines of who I am. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. This is just who I am. I don't have to feel any type of way about it. It's really showing the world who you are. So I kind of see it more as that now, which I'm curious what your thoughts are. But then also it talks about, did you want to share anything or should I go to the next part?
Well, okay. I like that
property line.
Yeah. Visualization of invisible property lines.
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
So
but when
good.
you picture it like that, yeah, that's really good. I think of, what is it? The Don't Tread on Me. I think that's I don't know if it's South Carolina or Texas, but that Don't Tread on Me. It's the snake.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No idea. We'll put it up so you can see it.
Okay.
But it's you usually see a lot of Southern people with that flag, that Don't Tread on Me. It's kind of you actually see a lot of gun owners with it. It's more so hey, this is my property, or almost mostly
stay off my property.
Stand your ground type states or areas have you see that flag. It's hey, this is a warning. Don't cross this. But yeah, we emotionally have, we need our own property lines. Otherwise, someone will encroach very easily and maybe even unintentionally encroach on your property. But when you have those lines, I know it said invisible, but I think I think they need to be visible so that way people don't accidentally do those things, or get to the point where you can be comfortable speaking on what your boundaries are. But yeah.
Well, also, like, I see what you're saying about this piece about they need to be visible so people don't encroach on them or whatever. But also, that's already putting a little bit of judgment on it, or not judgment, but there's like anticipating for like a negative, once again, for a negative thing to be happening. And that's why the boundary has to be like, I'm seeing it so differently now. Like, I literally see it as literally just showing the world who I am. So it's not just, I have to show people this version of me because something's happening. Like, no, this is just who I am. Like, Maggie is this person. Like, we were all created unique, right? Yeah. And it's like, I am okay with some things. I behave in certain ways that are Maggie, and you are Myron, and like behave in the ways that Myron behaves. You're okay with some things, you're not okay with others.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I see it as negative though. Well, I mean, if I'm thinking like just practical, if like you own property, and there are also people who live next to you that own their own property, if you don't have any kind of clear delineation as to where your property ends and when theirs begins, there's naturally going to be overlap. Definitely. And it may encroach into the point where now there's confrontation because that person has overlap, but you didn't say anything or didn't have anything, no property lines or like a tree barrier or actual fencing or anything up like that. Like, if you put up a fence, that doesn't inherently mean that I won't still invite people in. It's just,
that's good.
We need to know who we want to invite in.
Yes.
But, so you were going to keep going on what is a boundary?
Okay. So another part of the definition that talks about it says they help you distinguish responsibility, what you're responsible for versus what belongs to others. So I guess, that just like expands on it a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Because I think too often we assume responsibilities that isn't our job or we were never asked to do, and we can develop negative feelings towards people because
we act outside of our boundary.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people have been in situations where you never asked someone to do something for you. They went out of their way and did something, and now they're...
I know what you're saying. It's like they potentially might be upset about something later on down the road.
Yeah.
Because the thing that they did for you...
It feels like a debt that should be repaid.
It's almost like the lines of responsibility are being like morphed.
Yeah.
If you think the property line, like, it's being morphed in a way, one person thinks it should be morphed this way.
Yeah.
The other person is like, oh, that's interesting that they just did that. Okay. But they don't really agree with the morphing.
Yeah.
So they're not going to act that way. They still think the property line is here. So then the person is going to be upset if they're not on the same page about where the property line is.
Correct. Yeah.
Property line metaphor really helps. Like,
it really does.
It's so good.
That's dope.
I have a lot of questions about the responsibility piece, but I think we're going to get to that later, right?
Okay. All right. Well, our next question is, do you struggle with putting up healthy boundaries? Why or why not?
I think, yes, I already said I do. I did. And I'm still working on it. Like, it's definitely a muscle that I'm working on and strengthening. So I definitely have struggled with this for a majority of my life. Like, I'm 33 years old and like just kind of starting to really work on this now. I mean, I did read this book in 2018. So I think the work sort of started then, but there's so many layers, and I feel more successful today than I've ever felt, obviously. But why? So do I think I struggle with putting up healthy boundaries, and why? Why do I struggle? I think I've done a lot of like research about what, like, some of the reasons why people struggle with boundaries. I think, if they're not modeled for you correctly, I think that's a huge one that I've noticed. I also know that children of alcoholics, there's a correlation with that and struggling with boundaries potentially. And that part too, I'm still like, it hasn't fully clicked in my brain, like, why. And I read something about it, and I remember them saying something along the lines of the inconsistency with with an alcoholic and also feeling like you have to kind of take on the needs of someone because they're struggling. Like a lot of people who come from dysfunctional homes struggle with boundaries. And I wonder if that's because there's just lots of dynamics within the family that are a little unhealthy, and people are kind of, the property lines are, because someone might be struggling so much, other people are stepping over property lines in order to help or try to help the person that's struggling so much. Because it's hard to see someone struggle and then be like, oh, I'm not going to do it, or whatever. And because I came from a household like that, I think that's some of the reason why. I think also, I think this is a hard thing, I think, with parenting, to even learn how to teach your child. And a lot of the times, like the adult-child relationship, you feel like a lot of parents will feel like they need to have control or they need to have, X, Y, and Z. But kids really need to be in environments where their yeses and their nos and their independence and all of those things are being fostered. And it's not this concept of like, oh, they're just being disrespectful. A lot of kids go through different stages of development where they're just learning how to like express themselves and find their identity and all these different things. And that has to be kind of cultivated. So I think some of those things are the reasons why people struggle with healthy boundaries. But what about you? Because I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say you do not struggle with healthy boundaries.
I don't.
I knew it. Okay, why? Why not, I guess? Why do you not struggle?
Why do I not struggle? If I had to guess, I don't know if it's always been the case. I can't say for certain that it's always been the case, but at least from like late teens, maybe on, or maybe like early 20s on, I don't think I struggled because I more or less stopped caring what other people think. It's easier to set up boundaries when, and it's not even so much like you don't care it's not like you don't care about people, but you don't let other people's feelings or expectations of you be a burden on you so much, if that makes sense.
It does. I think there's like a confidence that, like, you have to really know and be confident in who you are too, though. Okay, so because that is what, at least for me, that's how I've been. I feel like in the last year I've been in this season of really trying to figure out, who am I? Who is Maggie? And I think as I get stronger in that, I'm more comfortable and confident. I know what my boundaries are. And so then when I get in situations, I don't know all of them, obviously. I'm still learning. It's a process. But I know so much more with so much more confidence what my boundaries are. So when I get in situations where someone might have an opinion, it's so much easier to be like, no, this is who, like, being confident. And not that I'm not open to change and open to growth. And we are going to talk about that. That's another question. But like, I just know who I am more now. So I'm able to be like, okay, you're upset, but
okay. Like, I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that it's incredibly difficult for me to be offended. It's I don't want to say it's possible, but like, there's really only like a handful of people who could even say anything that would actually offend me, because I think, and my personal belief is that the only way for you to be offended is if that person said something and you value their opinion more than you value your own. Because if you don't value someone's opinion, then it doesn't really matter. Like, they couldn't say anything to you about you specifically that should affect you, because you know who you are, you know what you are, you know what your intentions are. If someone offended you about something they believe that you are, then inherently you believe that person's opinion means, if not more than your own, but at least equal to your own. You're giving other people's thoughts too much weight in your own life. Yeah. Oh,
that's so good. I never connected all those dots together.
Yeah, and because I think if more people realized what they were inherently doing, I think the pride would rise up in them and stop them from being as offended all the time. I think, well, one of the problems is, we're in a very victimhood society right now. Everybody's looking to be offended. Everybody's looking for the next thing people almost feel empowered by feeling offended or victimhood, but
Yeah.
that's another thing. But yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting because it's like I feel like I'm strong in some ways with that offended piece, and then other ways I'm not. I think it falls back into the people please, like
Yeah, and you're a recovering people pleaser,
right? Because I think there are so many situations where I'm not offended at all. Like I'm very
Yeah.
But then there's other situation where it's not offended for me. I don't think I struggle with being offended. I don't know. Whatever. That's a whole nother. Maybe we need to add that topic.
But I mean, that's still like it goes back to like how we deal with people and their perception, and like when, especially setting up those invisible lines. How does that set up that line affect the person on the other side of that line? And if that's the thing that you're thinking about more than your need for having that line, then that will ultimately impact that decision.
See, and that's where I get confused because and I think that leads us into this question, which I'm going to skip because I'm going to skip around because this makes more sense.
Do it.
But how do you know when it's time to change a boundary instead of holding it? Because what you just said, what did you just say? You said something along the lines of like how it affects other people.
Yeah.
But like there are times when you potentially should
change a boundary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so first, I think we need to acknowledge the difference between a boundary and an insecurity or a coping mechanism or, any of these different things that we have in our lives that are intertwined, that, survival instincts, all these different things, that those different tools in our toolbox that we just use to, get through the day, get through all the different obstacles in our lives, interpersonal relationships, drama at work and all those different types of things. We need to, what is the purpose of each of these things and how do they benefit me or how do they prevent me from growing? Because a lot of those things, for a time may help us heal, but over time end up not sustaining us, end up just holding us back. I think of like athletes or anyone who's had like some kind of sports injury. You have your injury and you're down. You gotta be in a cast. You gotta have surgery. You have to walk around with crutches. You have to be off of that thing, and it's a boundary on that limb or whatever appendage that you need to protect, and you need to set clear line. Okay, I can't lift anything over 5 pounds for this period of time. I can't extend to a certain length for this amount of time. But after that period of time,
as you get stronger,
you're rehabbing, and any good sports therapist, they will show you can develop that same level of strength you had before. But also, let's learn and see how to not injure ourselves again. Let's find other exercises that we can do to keep this area strong and healthy for long term. Not just, all right, well, we're just going to keep a sling on that leg forever and you'll never walk again.
Yes.
Like, you can't just be like, oh, well, this injury happened, so I'm crippled for life. Like, no, that's a temporary thing. And you also, even as you're recovering, you have to get past the pain that, this injury might happen again. Because a lot of time athletes will, if it happened to their right knee, they'll be very weary of how they pivot. It's tough to get that image out of their head of that pain they felt and how, they felt helpless and all those types of things. It's not even just the physical game, it's the mental game of overcoming that.
Oh, that's so good. I'm getting excited. I'm so glad you brought that analogy because something I learned, and shout out to Gabby. Gabby and I she's also reading this book, as are a few of my other friends actually too. It's kind of wild.
You got a side book club?
No. I want to start one actually, but it's crazy because I started reading this book again. And then since that started, a bunch of, it's these friends it's popped up that other people are bringing this book up or reading it or whatever. So it's kind of funny that there's a bunch of us kind of in this season right now of this. But anyway, Gabby was talking to me. We were having a conversation and she kind of shared with me that boundaries should kind of function like a gate. And so it's kind of it's not because a property line is very it's not moving.
Yeah.
So, but a gate, it's it can open, it can close, and you're kind of deciding what you want to let in, what you want to keep out, right?
Yeah.
So
keep out the riffraff.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing that she was talking to me about is you should always honor, because I think we can feel in our bodies when something is kind of busting a boundary essentially, or when maybe a boundary is needed, like you feel off in your body. You're like, ugh, like something kind of comes up. Right. And she said like, always honor. Cause I think the fear is this, should I put a boundary up? Should I not? Like, what should I do? And like, the first step, I think, is to always honor it because it's coming up for a reason. Yeah. It's hard to tell at the beginning, is it healthy or unhealthy? Because that was kind of the question, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess it wasn't the question. The question was, how do you know when to change instead of holding?
Yeah, but
right?
I mean, still, you need to.
But it does combine with healthy and unhealthy, right? Because I think that part. So honor it always, because then once you honor it, you can kind of like start seeing what's underneath it, right? What is the reason for what's happening? So even if you go back to the injury, what did you say? The knee? Did you say it was the knee?
Yeah, I mean, any.
Like, okay, so like, let's say it was my knee and I'm trying to do something and my knee is hurting. Mm-hmm. I need to stop. Always honoring, like, stop what you're doing. And then you kind of then will, it's not like you won't ever do that again.
Yeah.
But you need to like kind of see what's going on. Why did that hurt? Mm-hmm. And same goes for us and our boundaries. Especially for me, that really like is amazing for me, especially as a former people pleaser in recovery. Well, I'm a current people pleaser in recovery. I'm still in recovery. But like for me, that is really important to honor it, because if I don't always honor it and I just keep going forward, then I could be operating on what other people want from me, right? Yeah. Versus me honoring it, giving myself time, pausing. If I still decide to, open the gate or whatever, that's great. But at least I know it's rooted in like my own self-advocacy, my own decision. Yeah. Versus I'm just doing this because somebody else wants me to do it, right? Yeah. Somebody else wants me to open the gate. And the gate thing is so cool too, because it's like it can open, it can close. It's like very fluid. It can move. And I think, we get into situations in life where it's like things are dependent on different factors. So I really liked that like gate analogy as well.
Yeah. You do have to let people in, that's part of
and we have to grow. And we have to grow. We have to be open to new things. We have to be, we can't just be like, this is how I am. And I'm not. I mean, a lot of people are like that. I don't want to be like that. Like, I've learned, I can't tell you how much, like, just from being open to others and seeing how others do life has, like, benefited me as a human, So it's like, we have to be, you don't have to, but I choose to be open and willing. So it's like, what does that process look like as you also honor yourself? And I think that's what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings up an interesting thing. It's not even a question. I'm just thinking about like to my own childhood, because I'm a very shy kid growing up, but like my mother would force me to do things like she would force me to go on stage and like do piano recitals. I don't even remember how to play. I hated playing the piano, but like I had to do piano recitals. She made me do vocal lessons. I was out there singing like Italian arias and stuff like that. I'd just go on stage, sing it, and then I'm off stage. Like, and again, those are none of the things I would ever intentionally do, but without her, like, pushing past my own boundary, like as a kid. But again, it's like you're a kid, you got nothing but boundaries, right? But she pushed past, my boundaries, and I'm now able to do things that I would never do like on my own, where it's like either I'm preaching on stage or I'm, leading worship on stage, which again, it's not, I have no desire to be like on stage or have a platform or anything like that. But I'm also now, I'm equipped to do those things without fear. Whereas if I was just that shy kid without ever being put in a position where I could, learn to be comfortable, I doubt I'd be doing the things that I'm doing today.
I love this. I love that. Let me just say, but this is something I wrestle with a lot, because it's like, how do you know? How do you know what the situation calls for? Because I do believe there's been a lot of parents out there that have pushed their kids to do stuff that they really do not want to do. And they're pushing them, and it's really not, it has really negative effects. And I even think of how I handle myself. And I think I'm really, like, I push myself a lot, almost to the point where, like, it's not what the moment calls for. The moment actually is calling for, like, something's coming up with me, for example. Like, I'm having maybe I'm struggling to get something done, or And I'm like, Maggie, just do it. And I'm like kind of like forcing myself. But really what that moment called for was me to like not force myself and dig deep and figure out like what's going on. So then I can actually do the thing later. And it's not coming from a place of like so much force to get something to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
so. Like in this situation, like your mom, she had to force you. You're grateful for the benefits that came from that.
Retrospect,
yeah. But it's like I think I'm even thinking about as a parent, what would that look like? I have a kid who's like crying in front of me. They don't want to get on stage. They're like terrified.
Yeah.
Do you force them to get on stage? They're literally in front of you like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, like, how do you know what to do in that situation?
Okay. So one of the problems is a lot of people will do what's the thing where it's like, oh, well, it worked for me, so let me repeat this formula on down. You know, if I, you know, have a child and they're in a position where like they don't want to do a thing, I can't just say like, well, my mom forced me on stage, so you get on stage too.
Right, because it's different.
It's a different child. It's a whole different person. It's like they might literally not have the same skill set. You know, I despite the fact that I, you know, still am shy, but for whatever reason, I have the ability to, I don't know, like if I disassociate while I'm on stage, I don't know, like I feel like I should be paralyzed and freeze up, but that never happens, and it's not even like a fear that I think about, like, oh, what if I get up there and I don't know what to say? That's never happened. And even if it does happen, I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't care what people think, you know, so I can be up on stage and not think about like, oh, these people are judging me. What's going to happen? Like, you know, but back to the thing. It's like, I don't know. I know you want me to have an answer.
No, you had an answer. The answer that really stuck out to me was like, it's like every kid is different. Every person is different. You can't just like one size fits all to everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of trial and error as well. So it's like, let's say a parent in this situation, they like make them get on that stage, right? Then maybe the child does really well. So they're like, okay, now we know. But then maybe they're still over time, like there's no improvement. They're just literally crying every single time. Like you have to adjust potentially, but also the strategy.
As a parent, you probably have to be intellectually honest with yourself about what is the actual goal of this. Yeah. Is it like, okay, I want this child to be able to overcome fears, learn, you know, grow from a different experience? Or am I just trying to live vicariously through this child and have them fulfill the dreams that I never achieved? I don't know if everybody's having those conversations with themselves.
Well, yeah, because like in these moments, you're also having to instill for kids boundaries and how to exert their yes and their no, right? So it's like all these things are happening all interchangeably.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's just being a parent. So,
which neither of us are.
Yeah, no. So next question. Ooh, should we go the responsibility route or the ownership freedom route?
I would defer to you.
Oh, that's why I asked you. I didn't want it to be referred to me.
I mean, you can go to both.
This one is so intense. Like, I just don't know.
Why are you afraid of it?
Okay, fine, I'll just do it. Because I'm afraid of being too deep for the people.
I thought we were here to have some deep conversation.
We are. Okay, so I genuinely don't have an answer to this, so that's why I want to ask Myron. But
oh boy.
If boundaries help us know what we're responsible for, because that was in the definition, right? It said it helps you distinguish responsibility, what you're responsible for versus what belongs to others. So if it helps us distinguish that, how do we actually decide where the line is, like where responsibility lies? Is determining responsibility entirely up to us, or is there a guiding framework or even creative freedom in how we set it?
Okay, when you say by determining responsibility, is that like I'm setting, here's the property line and what your responsibility is?
No, it's like, who draws the property line in the first place? Because it's like,
the owner of the property.
Oh. Well, it's like, okay.
I mean, if we're being real practical, it's the county that draws the property lines, or whoever.
Like, so who's and like that's why I'm hinting at, like in our life, who is. Like,
so the neighborhood I live in, a guy owns, I don't know how many acres it was, maybe like 70 something acres, and he owned the land, and then, he got the county to come in and check for wells because we're well and septic. We don't have sewer. So check where the property would be and then set up the lines according to, what the county would do. But when we're talking about the actual fence, the owner of the property decides the fence, how high that fence is, as long as there's no crazy HOA or anything like that. If you want to set up like a tree line, the owner of that property gets to decide where the property lines.
And like what happens inside that property line too.
Yeah. I mean, again, another practical example, my neighbor, he put up a fence behind his house, and then he put up, like some particle board on the fence, because like the fence he had was like slatted. So his dogs could still get out, so he needed to put up something that would keep them from getting out. The neighbor who was behind his house, that though the fence was on my neighbor's property, it was still right behind the other neighbor's house, and he didn't like the way it looked, and he was constantly complaining. They ended up having a whole big beef for a couple of years. They didn't even speak to each other.
Oh, dang.
So when you are putting up your fence, it is going to be near. Yeah, it's going to rub right up against someone else's property line.
And it might rub them the wrong way. But what are you going to do? Because that's the fence you want or whatever.
It's the fence you want. I mean, you do need to have, conversations. So especially if having, any kind of friction in relationship is going to be a bigger issue for you, then yeah, you can have those conversations to see, okay, maybe we adjust how the fence looks, but if fence needs to go up, it needs to go up.
Yep.
There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
So
I love this like property line thing, because I think it's helping me take something so like, what's the word? Abstract. Yeah. And bring it into something more concrete, which is then helping me understand it more. And I think when you first said like the county determines the property lines, right?
Yeah.
And then people move into that property and then it's theirs and they just decide what to do with it. That like really reminded me of just like essentially like God is like the county,
Yeah.
So he's like, this is my, like, this is so cheesy, but this is my child.
Yeah.
I've created you. This is who you are. And I feel like it's our responsibility to then discover who that is. And like, also the best part about God too, is he also gives us so much freedom. So think about how you have freedom within your property line to do whatever you want. Like, I truly believe that's how we get to live our lives. Like, he's created us, right? He's given us these lines of who we are and potentially maybe like purposes he has. Like, I think he does give a little bit of property line, but then we really do have like this beautiful freedom to just create and decide and make decisions and take ownership and agency over our lives. And I think that's,
well, that was one of our questions that you just masterfully answered.
Oh, thank you.
I know, I really like that analogy, because that is how he wants us to have and find ownership and freedom, is like through the bounds that he, gives us.
Yeah. And it just brings me a lot of peace, because I think when I was thinking about this question originally, I was like, well, who has the responsibility to decide what's the question? Yeah, like who gets to decide who's responsible for this and who's responsible for that? Like if one person is saying this and another person is like, who at the end of the day gets to decide, right?
Yeah.
But I think for me, it gives me so much peace, because God has kind of decided for me who I am, what I look like, what my boundaries look like. And he's decided that for other people. Yeah. And my only responsibility is me.
Yeah.
And then, if I meet other people, it's not about ever. And that's the control. Oh, this is where control comes into play, because we're like, boundaries are not to control others. And I think sometimes people do that.
Yeah.
Boundaries are not about that. It's not like, oh, you cannot talk to me that way. It's not that. That's not a boundary. A boundary is, if someone is talking to me that way, I will not be a part of that conversation.
Right.
That's, me centered. So it's like, it just gives me peace, because it's like, it's just me and God. We're going to figure this out. Obviously, like I interact with humans all the time, but it's not my responsibility to decide what's going on with other people. It's really just my responsibility to like figure me out. I think because things happen, we go through different things. People experience different trauma. We live in a world where like lots of stuff happens. I think what God and who he created us to be, it can get like muddled. And like there's a lot of stuff, and that's where the part comes where we go back to the knee analogy, where you really have to like rehab, right? And I think that's what we do in life when you're working on your stuff. You know, maybe you're going to therapy, or you're really like just pursuing healing, so you can uncover essentially who you were intended to be all along, what God intended for you, the life, the person that he intended you to be, without all the other extra junk, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's also important to make sure you give yourself that time to heal and recover, and not just try to, I mean, because I remember, it's like, was that 2 or 3 years ago? I remember when I had like my brace on my wrist.
Yeah.
I had a mountain biking accident. I had a brace on my wrist, but like maybe like 3 days after that accident, I tried to go back out mountain biking.
I remember this.
It was like me and my brother and my homeboy Tommy. We tried to hit the trail, and the second, the first bump I hit on the trail, my wrist was like, no. My wrist was like, you're done. It's a wrap. And I was like, oh, okay. And this is more serious of an injury. Because I just thought, oh, I just sprained it. Because it wasn't like broken or anything. It was just a little swollen, and then the swelling went down. And I was like, okay, maybe I can, it's a little stiff. Maybe I get out there. I'll hit that first jump. And I was like, bang. Oh, all right, we're done. We're done for a while. You can't just rush back in. You got to give yourself time to heal. But you also have to, again, believe that you will get healed, and that you can get that strength and that mobility back. I mean, there was a time like I couldn't do any of that. Like the most I could get was like, ugh. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay, Mullen. So I'm changing this question, but if you could give anyone boundary advice that's struggling with boundaries, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them? Okay, so let's say they are struggling to put up boundaries. Yeah. Okay, struggling to put up boundaries with people.
Or honestly, because the struggle can go both ways. Yeah. People struggle by, we didn't talk about it. This is very important to talk about. People struggle to not put up boundaries, right? And then also people struggle with putting up too much. Yeah. Like their boundaries are super, and I don't think that's healthy. Like I think both of those are coming from unhealthy things that need to be addressed. So it could be either. Okay,
well, for either, the first question is, what are they afraid of, or what is the worst case scenario that they would imagine that could happen if they either took down some boundaries or put up those boundaries? And I think identifying what that fear is in that person's life is the first step, because they probably haven't even consciously. The way that fear works in our lives is, it's not just the first, like we never just think about the first thing that's going to happen when we're afraid of something. We're like, we start, thinking about 1,000 steps down the road. Like if it's a relationship and I'm afraid to put up a boundary, and I identify what that first fear is, I'm not just identifying what's going to happen if I put up that initial boundary. I'm thinking about, how's that going to affect the rest of our relationship? Are we no longer going to be friends? Is our dynamic between our other friends going to be affected? Like, you think about all of those things. I think you need to go back to the, first thing first, and like, what's the worst case scenario, or what's that the root cause of what it is that's preventing you from either putting up that boundary or taking it down?
No, that's good. And it kind of makes me think of, just because the original question that I wrote, and I changed it for you because you didn't struggle with boundaries. So the original question was, if you could give boundary 101 advice to your younger self, what would you say? And I think what you just said, what are you actually afraid of? I think this is another reason, and we didn't say this earlier, but I think another reason why people don't put healthy boundaries up is because there's a fear of things, like fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of loss of relationship.
Fear of change, because I think too often, like if you're in a dynamic and you need a boundary to come up, inherently you want the dynamic in that relationship to change. Not, overarching, big drastic change, but you want something to change. But at the same time, you're afraid of doing that because you fear it might change something. So it's like, you desire change, but you're also afraid of it.
Yeah, because it's the unknown. It's scary. You don't know.
Yeah.
Which is why, people will stay in dysfunction over, healthy, because at least they know what that's like.
Yeah, and it's so crazy how quickly you can get comfortable in your dysfunction and get comfortable in the thing that you hate, and like how you can even long for it because you're terrified of anything that could change could be potentially worse.
Yeah. And I think what I would say to my younger self, so like 32 Maggie, because I was struggling with this at 32, but even younger, I would say, girl, it's okay. It's like literally okay to be you. Like I would literally just say that, because I think that was the big issue with me and boundaries, that it was like, I didn't feel like it was okay to be me. I felt like, well, this person's telling me to do this, then I should do that. This person's telling me to do this, I should do that. Like it's like this sense of self wasn't developed the way that it needed to be,
Yeah.
or it was there and it's just, I didn't listen to it, So it's like, I think that's what I would tell my younger self.
Promoted other voices over your own.
Once again, which goes back to your comment about the offended piece.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell my younger self.
Oh, good.
I think that's all. You got anything else you want to talk about related to boundaries?
No, I think we've covered it quite a bit. I mean, this is another type of topic that we could easily come back to. Maybe we'll get a guest on and talk about some boundaries and things. Yeah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this topic on boundaries 101. Maybe we'll have 102 next time. If you need to set some boundaries in your life, or maybe take some boundaries down to, let people in, it's good to have people you can trust in your life, and it's a good experience. I rate it. But yes, let us know what you thought. If you have any thoughts, let us know in the comments, and we will catch you on the next one. Remember, no answers, no perfection, just two sides, same couch, one conversation at a time. See y'all.
Bye.